Still haven't found the button. I found the delete channel button, but not the rename channel button.
No.
It's like those manuals. Pull off the CPU from the motherboard of your laptop. But first, before you do that, remove the battery. You're standing there. Oh yeah, well, it was broken either way.
Yep.
Almost the same thing happened once when I was helping my dad change a timing belt on a car. It was would have been rather more expensive.
Oh wow.
Okay, welcome to the DAO call, guys.
Hey.
I suspect there are many topics to talk about. I will now rest in bounty peace and let you guys go on.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Archimedes, it's your time to shine.
What do you mean it's my time to shine?
It's always your time to shine.
I'm in the middle of trying to get the proposal going forward so I can get this out today.
There is no agenda for today, so I know some topics that can be discussed today, but
Go for it.
one is the community management sub-DAO proposal, which we don't have favored here, so can't be talked. We have the
CryptoPaws's feedback on the Miro
yeah. I
board.
was about to say that the DAO members'
Calling
contribution.
CryptoPaws out for something that is everybody's responsibility to do, and I'm just saying out loud that we all have the ability to look at the Miro link that was shared and posted in the chat.
He has been summoned.
Yeah, I heard my name. And something about responsibility, so I'm inclined to go again.
I was trying to make sure that nobody pinned this on you because you took the initiative to actually do something.
Yeah,
awesome.
You said two keywords.
Yeah.
CryptoPaws, responsibility. Boom.
Yeah, and boom.
I promise it wasn't intentional to scare anybody.
No, all good. Yeah, I saw that people replied. I mean, it was during the call, but I take it. So, and love to see more, and especially also a bit more of ideas on what Grape should be and what we should offer. So maybe I should stress that a bit more. I'll add something on the Miro board. Especially since I started the PDF Sajal. First, it's great work so far, especially that even doing it and putting something like that together also helps to show where we're probably lacking some insights, and that's on us. So it's not your responsibility to find answers. It's the DAO's responsibility. So every one of us needs to step up. Yeah.
That's also what I particularly like about this bounty. It's like it forces us to get answers on some questions that we just hadn't figured out this very clearly.
Yeah. Because I went through it once, and I will add my notes to it, and I saw that it is like I know that we offer so much more, but to put it in words is hard, and at some or in some instances I wouldn't even know how we could offer a specific service or the idea that we are having, and that actually helped me, or probably will help me to put something down in Miro because I started thinking about it. Yeah, so it's a good starter. Especially in regards to grape art, right? This is something we usually talk about grape and then automatically assume that everything is about grape access, but it isn't, right? We have an awesome marketplace. We have ways to help communities have their own marketplace, their own governance. So this is nothing small, right? It's and we didn't create a product out of it. There is a use case, but there is no product. So yeah.
Yep. And I think that this, from when you started it and there was nothing there to where we are now, it's clearly moving in the direction that it needs to move. Right. We're getting a lot more feedback, and it's very easy for anybody to go in, create post-its, write their thoughts. You can tag your post-it with if you want to do this anonymously, that's fine, but it'd be great if you share who you are.
I am a voice and a keyboard.
Yeah, sorry about that. It'd be great if you share who you are, for us to be able to identify and bring you up to the discussion. And this is a collective contribution from everybody in the DAO. If everybody and anybody that sees something about Grape just adds a comment, it's not unimportant. It is important. It's valuable. Everybody contributing to this might give us a better picture and understanding of what everybody sees, which I think is really, really valuable.
Yeah, and I think on a personal level, like what everybody can contribute personally, we are coming along nicely. But when I'm looking to the right, I still don't see many user stories filled out. I see the examples by pause, and I see the two that I provided for Grape Access Network, the users and the founders perspective on Grape Access Network. But like you said, I also think that Grape Art will be a more important product going forward, and we don't have any user stories on Grape Art currently.
Yeah, a good first step would be on the bottom right. I started with the grape and with like grape art, Dean's List, and GAN. So what I did for GAN, I started, but I basically left grape art, or I started a little bit with grape art, but you can do so much more. So if people have ideas, just put them down. It's the idea is to have like a cloud of
How can
connected
you create this squiggly thingy? As
squiggly thingy. You just take. I'm
no. I don't mean how you did it. I mean how can your German mind not cry at you and die inside?
I tried to adapt, right? So I know that it's easier for people to just like throw something out, and then we can like bring order to. Okay. We can bring order to the chaos. So if you have an idea and like think of what Grape can offer, at what we can do, of what Grape has like for values or perks or something like that, just put it down, connect it to something that relates to it, and we bring order to it. And Dynite, stop trying to change the grape in the middle. I'm seeing you. I locked it, so no chance there.
Smart. Well done.
He messed
Well
up and
done.
he's trying to change it back pause, but he doesn't seem to be able to, or whatever.
Yeah, he I know what he did, so basically this should fix it.
Just if you ever convert this into some other document, do me the favor of straightening it out. Otherwise, I will have to start smoking or whatever. Need something stronger than coffee.
The idea is to just
Cuban coffee.
Like Cuban coffee. Never mind. Just think about what grape is to you, what you know that grape could do, or what you wish for grape to solve, or something like that. Put it down. Just like take a box. I can make you some boxes right here. So
like he's
yeah, a lot of boxes. Take a box, put something in there, and we then connect it. Like it's not important to do it right now. You can do it, of course, right now, but the more we have, the better we get an idea of what grape can offer. And if we bring everything together and then look at it collectively, we hopefully find out on what to focus. And the more people do that, the better. That's my 2 grapes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, Pause. Definitely.
Dynite is discrediting your color skills, pause. Is this even a word, discrediting?
Yep. I think so.
Yes, it is a verb. Should work. Legend knows Fluffy. Legend, I was talking to Isimias, he didn't know Fluffy.
He's not American.
But he's living in, isn't he?
I'm sorry, what?
You are living in the States, aren't you?
I do, but I'm Greek, my friend.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not American either. I'm just living in the internet, which
Archimedes
is
probably
kind of
doesn't watch
headspace.
stand-up comedy.
Just so that I could put myself out there as far as the World Cup is concerned, yes, Greece is not in the World Cup. I know. All right.
Just I'm getting ahead of it. Cup.
I'm getting ahead of it before I hear anything about it. Okay.
Mexico gonna take it.
Yeah, but
there's
back
another
to
very kind saying about Mexico and competence.
Yeah.
Your grape.
So, what CryptoPause is outlining, for those that look at the chat, in the live chat, you can see that there's a mirror board that CryptoPause started as our canvas for painting this picture about what grape is. Tell your friends that are part of Grape that we want everybody's ideas if possible, and contributing a post-it or two, just saying what you think grape is, right? Or something about grape that you use, or something about grape that you envision. The idea is that we get to a place where we all share a vision of what we think grape is and distill it down to common factors and common themes. And we, as a community, have something that we've collectively aligned on, and not just, something that we all agree on or disagree on in terms of somebody came and told us that this is what grape is and that's it. We all have an opportunity here as a community to offer up our feedback That's the whole purpose of this initiative, right? The whole purpose of it is for us to really get down to brass tacks on vision so that we can then start talking more about things like token usage and how the community would manage token usage and tokenomics. And a lot of the other things that are still lingering as issues probably have to do with the fact that we have different versions of what we think the vision is, and focus is probably the one thing defeating us. Not that we have different visions, it's just that we're all looking at different things at different times. So this should help us organize as a community because we're multiple individuals with different ideas and different views. But some of them might be more similar than we actually realize. And we might have some disagreements on specific topics, but we can, I think, align on some general notion of forward direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in summary, look at the Miro board. Feel free to add your contributions. Take a look at it. If you didn't know this stuff before, it's also educational. And a lot of people have added in their comments and posted so far. So feel free to read through those. You know, if we get enough people doing this, it might be hard to keep up. So do it now before it grows exponentially. All right. Well, thank you again, CryptoPause, for driving that initiative and helping us get organized. And I really like Miro, by the way. I was skeptical about it at first in the very beginning when you first presented Miro way back when. But it definitely is a great brainstorming and whiteboarding tool for sure.
I somehow imagine you have like a memorabilia, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Like you have a big coffee cup, like these giant coffee cups with like Excel 2003 or something. So I imagine your desk is looking
I'm
big
spread
Excel cup.
I I have a few cups actually. I make more coffee before I finish the last one. It's fun.
I see Mr. Riptide on the mirror. Long time no see. Maybe the user stories. So in the first row, the idea row, these different initiatives, were these examples by you, Archimedes, or how did they arrive there?
Oh, in the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put some headings there to give an idea of if anybody wanted to add more things. I just started them off by putting some headings. They could be wrong, and maybe I've gone either too specific or too broad, but yeah, I took
I will
CryptoPause's
convert
template.
them into a text field, because if you don't fill them out, it makes it look like a space is taken. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that. Maybe I need to use Miro more. Thank you. But yeah, I did that. That was my fault. Based on the fact that CryptoPause made a template that made it easy for me to look at it and structure my thoughts, which I appreciated. And also just for clarity, anything that's in that table is based on something that we already have today. It may not be forward looking and looking for the future necessarily. It's stuff that we've stuck to thus far.
Yeah, but it was also when I added my user stories, I was like, okay, I can't delete this. There's something there, so I will go to the where something is free. Now pause is giving us more space. Excellent. Sometimes when working with Miro, I have this kind of feeling of freedom you have in the first few hours in a new Minecraft world. If anybody ever remembers this.
I played it once or twice, but yeah, you could do anything, right?
Everything is fresh and you're feeling so free.
And then you start building, but you're not sure why you started building unless you started planning and you know all the features that are required in order to make it something worth building. And you keep investing time in it, thinking
Some of the happiest moments were when you had no idea what you were doing, but you built this shoddy hut out of a few pieces of wood and dirt, but it's still your hut and you're proud.
That's a good point. It's a very good point on sentiment and trying to make this fun, right? Focused and fun.
Focus and fun. But there are very good life lessons in Minecraft. For example, if you want to build a castle, you don't have enough stone, you have to go and get some stone before you can build it. Which is a life lesson the former German Minister of Health did not get because he proclaimed that he will vaccinate everybody, but there were no vaccination doses available at this place in time. So, yeah, he basically had to scramble.
Yeah, plans are useless, but planning is invaluable, they say. Somebody, I can't remember who said it, but it's true.
Foods discuss tactics, professionals discuss logistics. Logistics is everything.
Yep. Let's build a spaceship. We have no metal.
I mean, the easy way out is you don't build a spaceship. You build a simulation of a spaceship.
Yep.
The metaverse is basically just being lazy. But on the other hand, you have people like Chris Roberts. His game will be more expensive than one spaceship, at least.
True. Brings up an interesting thought. I'm gonna have to. I'll get back to you on that.
I have to stop messing around with a mirror before I draw pause iron.
Yep.
It's okay. It's intended to be used like that. So.
Yep. Okay, so I think we have that on the docket and something that continues to need attention over the coming week for us to get to a place where we can consolidate and talk on Sunday.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Maybe one last point on that. What I asked you about on the comments, that you would like to get open source development, make it attractive or something like that?
Yeah, so there are different models of openness, and there's open systems, there's open platforms, there's open standards. And
is this a definition by yourself, or is there like a
no,
publicly
these are
framework?
well, these are definitions by the open source standards bodies that make decisions about what is considered open source and what's not, right?
Okay,
And there've been a number of analyses that look at it and say, why would you do open source? Open source is a great way of bootstrapping technology advances in the short run, but over the long run, if you don't have ways of contributing value back to those that produce the open source technologies, right? Why do people go closed source is the question. Why do they choose closed source over open source?
Well, the obvious answer would be to protect the IP.
To protect the IP, and also because there's some benefit
It's
to
easier.
them. Yeah. The primary reason, though, that most people look at is the fact that there's a benefit financially and or some type of value that they get back because they can hold off and they offer
IP
value.
And vendor lock-in.
Yeah, exactly. And the IP is basically what? It's to protect their interests, right? And the fact that they built something that's custom, they don't want anybody else being able to create it. And
barriers to entry for competitors.
Exactly. So you know, one of the things that I look at the Epics DAO as an example is they're trying, it seems as though what they were trying to do is tackle that problem, right? And I see that as
Epics
something.
or Epics?
Epics DAO.
Epics DAO, okay.
Yeah, they're, from what I understand, they are a Solana-based community that when built a DAO centered around the notion of, okay, well, if they had a token, the token would be used to reward open source development. But I think it goes beyond that, right? It's not just, I think there's a general challenge to open source development where the models today in any web version, you want to use Web 2 or Web 3, that's fine. But the model that works usually from a business perspective, and I'm not speaking on it from the development perspective, I'm talking about it from the framework, right? Of how do you promote open source development and make it something that contributes value back to a community or to a group so that it operates similar to the way closed source could operate. It contributes value back to those that produce it and enables and promotes that type of behavior in the ecosystem, because more open source development is better for everybody from a security standpoint. But it can audit, they can fork, right? Serum, for instance, if Serum wasn't open source, at least they didn't have an open source repo, Solana would have been in a bigger pickle, a bigger.
You're also taking on two different kinds of risks here. First, you have the risk of the whole Web3 thing being new, and now you combine that with a new way of doing open source, and now you have a double risk.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is this, and I'll summarize here, is the typical open source model is you offer it for free, but there are nuances in how to maintain the system so people pay for the service to keep it up to date, right?
Yeah.
And you look at other tools out there that are open source, but they offer paid services to maintain the product. That's the typical open source model.
Like Canonical and Ubuntu.
Yeah, or Discourse, for instance, which that's how it works, right? It's open source. Anybody can use it. Anybody can download it, put it on their own server, maintain it themselves, add plugins, create plugins. You do whatever you want. But it's a time suck for you to have to maintain. Otherwise, you can go to Discourse. They can host it for you, and you can just pay them a nominal fee every month and done, right? If I look at Grape, what I'm trying to say in this context is there a way to make Web3 solve that problem in a meaningful way, right? How do you create a model in which open source development ends up benefiting Grape, ends up benefiting Solana, and ends up on a whole having a model that is positive for open source? Because that's a bigger challenge than just Grape, right? We talk about open source development being a cornerstone and a key focus for the community and for what everybody on the development side is doing. But I look at it from another angle and say, how would we make the devs that do the work, whether it's Grape devs or anybody else in the open source space, has Epics DAO cracked that code, right? Have they figured out how to make that work with their model? They're just one example.
What do you mean exactly by how do we make the devs?
So if we were to look at the different tools that exist in Solana, and you were to document which ones are open source, fully open source versus the ones that are closed source, and you look at the exchanges and the marketplaces, there's a lot of interesting reasons why would people go the route of closed source. So because the devs are attracted to that. How do you attract more talent towards the open source initiative? It's a character and a certain type of character and a certain type of ethos that's required to maintain that focus on open source. But what if you could create a model in which there were incentives for it? That's all I'm saying.
The thing is, the way I am seeing that open source work, like really work in a sense of it functions, it works well in Web 2 is that it's not primarily about ethos. still the ethos is there, and anybody who wants to come in, right? Any volunteer can come in and work on it. But
Right.
the main development work is done by companies who have agreed, there's an implicit agreement to use this technology. So they all share the burden of developing, maintaining, and pushing it forward. That's what we are seeing in Linux and in this
Right.
open standard for home automation that recently got done. We are seeing like serious businesses with people who are seriously being led and seriously being paid and working full time on it, agreeing on some kind of open standard and then pushing that forward.
Right. And for those systems, I don't know what the benefit is for the developer to do it. For somebody building on Solana, if they hold Solana, it's theoretically, if they're building something that's going to be an adoption use case for Solana, it ends up contributing value back to the Solana ecosystem, therefore should contribute value back to the Solana token or the currency, right? What I'm saying is, how does that work on the micro scale, where you have the ability to do that in a Web3 focus, and you create an initiative like that, but it's hard to maintain that at that scale. What you're describing about Linux, for instance, has been decades long contributions. Yeah.
But if I would translate what's going on in Web 2 directly to Solana right now, then you would have some standard, like whatever, let's say Metaplex, and then there are companies who are using that standard on Solana, and these are then incentivized to push that standard further if they choose so, because if the standard gets better, the product gets better, and they grow the whole market, which they have a share in. So that's the same argument you have with okay, I am using Linux, and somebody discovers a bug who is also using Linux, so they fix that bug, and I don't have to fix that bug because somebody else did it.
Right.
And now my product is better, but I haven't done anything for it. So it's a win if you use Linux, and if you use Linux, you're also incentivized to make Linux better. The same kind of incentives I see in Web3 with open standards or other open software, open tools.
Right. And I think that's part of where I was going with it, is that there's that version of it where you make it aware to people that it's what that benefit is, and some people are better at understanding it in Web3. I feel like there's a general idea here is what I'm trying to get at, right? Why did I mention it in the post-it? I mentioned it in the post-it because I think as a topic, it's broader than just we make open source tooling. Our devs are dedicated to that notion, right? It's getting the community behind, well, how would we make it work for that to actually contribute value back to Grape in general? And if we solve that problem, then we could potentially be coming up with something that's a bigger solution for the broader discussion around open source. Linux as an operating system gained adoption. And why would people maintain it? Because there are a lot of systems that run off of it, right?
Yeah.
It's dependency based on why somebody would do that. Right now, we could build, our teams or people of individuals and contributors to Grape or to any other open source project will do it only in as far as they feel like doing it, and unless it starts to get used, maintained, or some additional incentive exists, is it sustainable over a long term, right?
At this point, I'd love to advocate for the idea to be open source, but like do it within a framework that allows us to make money with it. So like what I suggested, we are open sourcing every feature after 6 months. Before that, you can have access to it, but you pay for it. So if there is a great feature, then you can have it and use it if you're a subscriber of ours. And after 6 months, everything is open source. So people who don't have the money or communities who don't want to spend that much, they can use everything that Grape provides that is older than 6 months, or like 6 months is an arbitrary time right now. But I think we need to find a way to leverage that we have great ideas and that our devs do phenomenal work, and we need to find a way to monetize it.
I agree. And I also think that adding to that, the point of bringing talent on board and having people attracted to this idea and really thinking that, you know, if you, depending on who you talk to, each sentiment will be different about what they think about open source. People will tout it and they'll talk about it, but if you ask them to spend the time to do it, you might get mixed answers. So I agree with you, CryptoPause, in the respect that we, talk about it and try and help figure out a way to do it, and also utilize our devs who have the experience of knowing how open source works. And I think the general notion of contributions over time is potentially an untapped area in a lot of things. And right now I'm looking at it from the governance side, right? But what if you were able to do it from the way that Epic's DAO is looking at GitHub submissions and contributions to be able to make a determination on specific projects reward system with a token, right? If I'm not mistaken. But I'm just using that as an example to say that could attract developers to an open source cause, right? I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm just saying I find it interesting that that group is trying to solve that problem, or at least that's what they've claimed to be doing. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that because I think it is important, and I do think open source is really key for bolstering and growing the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
And somehow contributing back to Grape is definitely has to be a focus of some sort.
What I see, what could happen, and what could happen, not like mid or long term, but rather short term, is that we start to reach out more to these open source communities, because technical open source communities are quite big, and that this way we could maybe get into the headspace and say, hey, we are also doing open source over here, and here's a guide for your completely open source Web3 stack, something like that. Do a little bit of networking on the technical crowd on a technical level.
Agreed. And I think the only other thing that would be missing from that would be, what problem are you trying to solve? It's
Yes.
With the open source development, what is it exactly that Grape is trying to do? It's so important that this person comes and contributes, and how do they get the reciprocation? It's either a bounty, right? So you could just use bounties and make it simple and do it on a case per case basis,
Yeah,
or
but
in
you
terms of
don't need to
ownership.
do that. You don't even need to do that, because the funny thing with these open source people is they are used to the idea that everything open source is like unpaid and as a free time project.
True.
So I think if you approach it truly only on a technical level, like, hey, we made this and we think it's cool. Here's the code. What do you guys think? Would you like to play with it? Here's like a one-page guide to set something up on your Linux box.
Yep.
That could already be a conversation starter.
Yeah, and I think the devs in the community are better at explaining some of that, the ideas behind the incentives to bring more people on board. They leverage and help direct in here are the things that we need, and here are the development cycles that need to happen, and they can contribute to the devs' vision of what needs to get built because they understand the technical side a lot better than most of us. But just the model, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's just the model itself is something that I was looking at in general.
Yeah, but beside that kind of technical let's call it networking for technical people, I wholeheartedly agree with Pause. We have to look at ways how we can also have have people commit to the project and pay rent, and still be an open source project.
Right. And just to use that as an example, for those that pay rent, those that contribute to building it should receive some portion of that, is kind of what I was suggesting about the whole contribution to an open source development. But again, if it's for profit, that could end up killing the terminology or the criteria that call it open source. So there's some interesting challenges with trying to make something call it open source and for it to officially pass the muster test of what open source means. Because
is this defined a muster test for?
Yeah, I'll send this through in a bit. I need to pull from where I got that. It's from the open source the OSS. There's a committee that makes the determination on what it passes as open source.
Podwork posted something which is also like smart contract rewarding for contributors.
Nice. Thanks, Pochak. I'll take a look at that. Very
Looks
nice.
clean. The interface looks very similar to Lighthouse, I must say. My only thought about when I'm thinking like smart contract on-chain contributions is we are too early. I think we are too early for that, because at least where I'm at, if you move into, or if you're looking for a new apartment, then they always ask for your last 3 paychecks if you're working age, and I I would be rather surprised if a landlord would accept on-chain transactions. So
Yep. Funny you mentioned that.
that's a thing.
I'm actually moving recently, and it's one of the reasons why I've been delayed in doing certain other things. So it's almost as if you're in my head.
I'm just trying to have a perspective on these things from a very practical, like from an individual person who would really use this, and then go upwards from that.
Yep.
Yeah. So while the idea is very great with on-chain transactions, I think for regular full time, I'm committed to this project. We are still not, as a society, we are not there for on-chain. If it's like single projects, or you work as a side project on it, then yeah, it works completely. You can get it out on your credit card or whatever via exchanges. But if you really say this is your main income, that's not going to work.
Yep.
I think Legend has fallen asleep. He's quietly left us.
Yeah, I didn't mean to carry on about this that long, but I definitely wanted to clarify what that point was in Miro board in case anyone else was curious or didn't fully understand what I meant by it.
I think we have pushed the theoretical foundation of our open source strategy quite a bit today.
Yep. We can pivot and talk about the next steps. I think tomorrow there's a reputation workshop, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, I saw it scheduled for nice and early. Reputation
agrees with you.
Reputation Redux. Potruck, sorry I didn't get back to you. I hadn't seen I typically have been avoiding DMs since December. And I, for whatever reason, had not had you as a friend yet, so I saw that late, but thank you for pinging me to see if I was available. I'll do my best to be there. Yep, thank you. And this should help push us forward in the discussion on reputation. so we can finally get to a place where we have a version of reputation that we could filter into our broader notion of contributions in the DAO.
Yeah. I think you're confusing me with your weird words, Potok. I think the reputation also ties in with the mirror board and also with user journeys, because if we have an idea of reputation of what should be important to our DAO, then we can, on one hand, we can think backward from that to what kind of people coming in would interact with that. And then we can turn it around and say, okay, we have this user story. And who is important to making this user story work? And this person should then be given reputation.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point.
Yeah, it all comes back to we have many strategic questions, like where are we going, and what is even the next step to get there? These kind of questions are very prevalent today and during the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and to be totally clear, for those of us that have been around since the beginning of the year, it may feel like this is the same conversation we were trying to have a while ago, but I think it definitely adds value in the long run for us to have these things figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I would propose we give it like a few minutes for anybody to bring up any more topics, and otherwise I think we are finished.
Yep, and apologies because I want to just give a quick update. I know I said on Sunday I would be providing the final proposal for the governance reputation. I did find a glitch in the matrix of my formulas after I had made one minor tweak, and then found as I was projecting different numbers that something was slightly flawed in the approach. And I'll explain once I make the proposal and clarify. But documenting the formulas, translating them from an Excel spreadsheet or any type of formula into a final simplified document that people can look at and not lose their mind was the goal. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that and explain everything, but it should be as straightforward as possible, whilst also taking into account a lot of the things that we say we need to maintain real time. In case anybody's curious, I'll just say this and make this quick and nimble. Following the last conversations I had with others, trying to get some feedback on what made sense, the current standing is every participant in the DAO, in a DAO, whether it's Grape or any other DAO, participates on Realms in some way, shape, or form. And Realms is the really the on-chain canonical source of truth for identifying activity. Activity comes in two forms. It comes in the form of what your lifetime activity has been and what your most recent activity has been. The most recent activity was not there before, and I managed to find a way to bucket it into the last two epochs, 2 or 3, depending on how far into the next epoch we are, and using the metrics to try and create weighting that enables us to say, you've contributed over time, and this is what you've contributed over time, and you've also contributed recently, which is what dictates whether or not you deserve rewards now, right? And for those that have contributed recently, it should come with some caveat to say, if you contributed in one out of the last 2 epochs, you've only contributed 50% of the time, right? So trying to find a way to balance that out to make it fair so that people who have contributed over time and also people who have contributed recently, so that new members can come in, get rewarded appropriately, but also old members that have been here and contributing consistently over time, creating that balance was a little bit of a challenge, and I expect that'll be, like I said, it'll be done this week. It's just I'm making some final tweaks to make sure it's foolproof. It may not be perfect, but it's going to be better than what we have now, which is nothing. So, and when reputation finally comes into play and we actually start talking about reputation more holistically, adding that as another factor into this equation should be pretty easy, because it's just going to be another metric to add. But as a result of the way that I've been going about it, I had to create my own version of what I believed reputation to be, just based on activity. So it doesn't include verification. It doesn't include a lot of other things like attestation. It's just about the metrics and the cadence of the metrics and the validity of the metrics. So that's part one. Part two, there's also the notion that in the broader sense of governance rewards, how somebody can come in and just start using what they know to be the rewardable actions. So creating a proposal and voting, and you just voting on your own proposals is one thing you could do. There have been a lot of DAOs out there that have tried to implement reward systems, and they failed because they found their rewards models were too simple in allowing anybody to just come in, create proposals and vote, and they would just spam by creating additional proposals. So creating qualifying metrics, creating some additional details is part of the other side of this. So as a result of those 2 different variations, there are going to be 2 different rewards models and formulas to take into account. And we can tweak the metrics once they've been presented. If you look at something and it doesn't seem like it's inclusive enough, we can always tweak it. So don't take it as this is it, finished, defined in stone. If anybody has any questions once it is finally published this week, I expect there will be questions, and I can give a full overview on Sunday. This coming Sunday, for those that are interested and want to participate in, shooting it down or telling me I'm completely out of my mind, which is fine, because I know I am, and I've enjoyed this thoroughly, because it's an interesting problem to try and solve. But hopefully we can get everybody that's been participating in our community in governance since December, which is when this all started, some value back for all the contributions that they've done over time, and they were never expecting the rewards, so it's bittersweet. But apologies for saying it would be done Sunday and then not actually publishing it or providing an update to say it would be delayed. I will follow up on that. And also, Ryder, I'll follow up on the bounty discussion for the video, because I had some comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else wanted to come up, but I don't necessarily want these calls to just become me monologuing. And sincerely appreciate if anybody has anything to add. I know we could talk about Grape Art, we could talk about the marketplace, we could talk about anything right now. So if anybody has anything they want to add, I think I'll take a step back and love to hear anybody else that wants to come up and say their piece.
Yeah, hi, Archimedes. I just want to say that I'm waiting for for your proposal. I think this is a very, very interesting problem, and thank you for taking it up. And I'm super looking forward to seeing exactly, what you're proposing. And if there's something that I can add, then I would love to. But just kudos to you for, taking this up, because it seems super interesting, and because I'm also part of a lot of DAOs and I see that this is something that is coming, will be much needed. So looking forward to the proposal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know it's going to take everybody time to consume it. So whatever amount of time I spend on it is only going to be as good as how simple it is to understand what it is I'm saying. Otherwise, I don't want to waste anybody's time. So if you feel like that's the case when you start reading it, just ping me and let me know this is too confusing. Because I want it to be comprehensive enough, but I also want it to be simple enough to understand. And I have a couple of people in the community that I rely on for that type of feedback. One of which is no longer here, so I won't call him out. But feel free to be that that other GPS triangulator for me to let me know when I'm on point or way off. Thank you.
For sure, yeah. And also just like I'll just take one more minute of everyone. I think one of the things that we recently discussed about, starting a podcast, right? And I did mention that I'll share a document with the list of the guests and everybody that we would like to get on to them. I told you I think I'll share it by the weekend, but it got a bit delayed. Still working on it. I think I would just like to give a shout out to Wales friend who has been a really, really good support, and the way he has supported this whole thing is just amazing. It's so encouraging. And I think that is what is needed in a community, and that is why I think I love coming here because everybody is super motivated and it just inspires you to do more and more and just, go out and, solve more problems and, get going. So that, and yeah, I'll share the document super, super soon, just one more day. We have lots of interesting guests and lots of interesting conversations that we are thinking of having with them, but it's going to be incomplete without all your feedback, and would love to include everything that you guys would want to, know from these guests or understand from these guests. So yeah, super exciting stuff coming.
Awesome.
Great. What kind of broadcast will you be doing? Will it be a Twitch stream or?
Yeah, we'll be recording it and then we'll be distributing it, on YouTube. It's not going to be live stream, so we'll be recording it. Then it will be going on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. So of course, with all the
Oh, cool.
communities, we'll do the
Do you
distribution.
want to do this like a regular thing or?
Yeah, like the idea is to just right now see how are we getting the responses, like, are the guests willing to come? And once we get them, we record it. If the response is good, if it's going great, then we can continue doing it. So it's just like an experiment sort of a thing that we are doing, because the idea is that we do a lot of things, and we are actually solving a lot of good problems. We can actually set standards and how things should operate. It's just that it's still not out there. So that is just one way of marketing. Yeah. And I realized that this is something we discussed in Dean's list. I'm so sorry. Just got
No,
confused.
that's fine. That's fine, and it's great that you're bringing this up because these are the types of updates that I think we could be using a lot more in these DAO calls, is just to hear what other sub DAOs might be addressing.
Yeah, I mean this is exactly the right place to share the news with the wider DAO.
Absolutely.
Looking forward
Yeah,
to it.
just realized. But yeah, great. So I just, thought I'll just mention this. But yeah, great work. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Likewise, and thank you for all your contributions. You've done a fantastic job with the DAO handbook, and Legend has done a great job of giving feedback. Daiki Sol has given some feedback, and you've been very receptive and collaborative, and we appreciate all the contributions that you've made thus far and continue to. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I'm going to give it
Okay.
another minute. Yeah, I'm going to give it another minute. If nobody wants to join the stage or talk about anything in particular, I'll stop talking here, but looking forward to anybody that wants to come up and offer up anything else that they might want to talk about before we close out. Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not the gatekeeper on who gets to come up on stage. I'm just telling everybody so that you can feel motivated to actually do it in case You didn't. You didn't know it was your turn. Okay. Well, it's been inspirational. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen in and also comment on the chat.
Yeah, we got quite a lot of things to cover today.
Oh, I
talk
was gonna. I was. Oh, never mind. I'll ping. I'll ping offline. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say goodbye to everybody, but if you still want to talk about something.
No. We're good. Sorry. I spoke before I thought about it. Apologies.
Okay. Well, from my side, I'm going to leave the stage. Goodbye from my side. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your day. Bye bye.